Welcome to Card Player TV's Legal Update. Our resident legal expert, Allyn Jaffrey Shulman, is here to talk to me a little bit about the Poker Players Alliance. Now, Allyn, you're a member of the Poker Players Alliance. What exactly is the P.P.A. and what do they do?
The Poker Players Alliance is a grassroots group of about 150,000 people and growing who care about poker and who care about protecting the interests of poker. It's headed up by Michael Bolserek, and there are a number of strong board members, Howard Leder, Greg Raymer, Linda Johnson, Jan Fisher, Chris Ferguson, and a number of us make all kinds of decisions, and we recently made a unanimous decision. Do you want to ask me my next question?
Card Players secured the first interview with Al D'Amato.
Yes.
What was it like, Allyn?
Yes, we did. It was absolutely wonderful. First, it was hard securing an interview because that man is a very powerful, very busy man. One day I called, he was in Washington. 2 days later, he was planning on going to London. So the moment that I learned he had some free time, I flew to New York and I met with him in his office on Park Place. We had a fabulous interview. We talked about the future of poker.
What is D'Amato's role within the P.P.A. now?
Actually, he was hired to take on two different roles. One role is he is the chairman of the board. The board was previously chaired by Linda Johnson, and now Senator Al D'Amato has the role of being the chairman. Besides being the chairman, he has also been hired to be the spokesperson for the P.P.A.
What does the P.P.A. expect from D'Amato?
I think it's better to pose the question, what do we hope for? Poker Players Alliance is made up of poker players, the people who are listening to this interview. Poker players simply want to be left alone and have the freedom of playing poker online. And Senator Al D'Amato has plans to help us do that.
What are some of Al D'Amato's plans for the P.P.A.?
Senator Al D'Amato is looking for a poker carve-out. Currently, there are interesting carve-outs in the law. Anyone who wants to bet on horse racing can easily do that. Anyone who wants to buy a lottery ticket can easily do that.
Absolutely.
Now, what Senator D'Amato explains is that those things have no skill whatsoever. Poker does have skill, so why aren't there carve-outs for poker when there are carve-outs for things like the lottery or horse racing? He says the reason is very simple. Poker does not have a voice. And so now what the P.P.A. has done is hired Al D'Amato, and poker will now have a strong voice.
So when can we expect to see some results from D'Amato's chairmanship?
I asked Senator Al that very question, and I tried to tie him down. Of course, he's a powerful man. He can't be tied down. And one of the things he told me is that it's a process. He says it's a process. He says, as Churchill says, never give up. But he says the process needs to start with educating congressmen. So the day before I interviewed him, he had already gone to Washington to put his plan in motion. The beginning of that plan is simply talking to and educating other senators and congressmen.
That's a good first step. People need to be educated in order to make an educated decision.
Right, exactly. And as I was leaving, he was actually changing his clothes in front of me, his shirt only, and his secretary ran in and said, "Get that on tape, write that down." But he was actually changing, putting on comfortable clothes in order to fly to London, because what he wants to do is educate himself about how to properly regulate online gaming. And of course in the UK they have been doing that for years.
Great. What does D'Amato think will happen if public online poker companies are driven out of the business?
That's one of the things that Senator D'Amato was very concerned about. If public companies are driven out, we run the risk of unscrupulous companies coming in. And the problem with that, well, the problem with that is obvious, but what ends up happening is that the goal that the senators had when they first passed the act, that goal is not met. The goal is to protect children. The goal is to make sure that there isn't money laundering. The goal is fairness.
Fair business.
Exactly, but none of those things happen if you have unscrupulous business people coming in. So D'Amato's opinion is it makes a lot more sense to regulate and to make sure that people are being treated fairly, that children are not playing online, and that there's no money laundering.
Yeah. What are some of D'Amato's past accomplishments that have led the P.P.A. to have such confidence in them as their new chairman?
Well, as many people know, Senator D'Amato was a senator for 3 terms, 18 years in New York, And he had a nickname of Senator Pothole. And the reason he had that nickname was there was a very famous road, I think it's Route 17. It was a famous road, and it had potholes in it, and there were actually very serious accidents on that road. And what he did is he was able to acquire federal funds in order to fix this road in New York. So although people made fun of him, and at one point it was a derogatory name, it actually came to be something that he says he wears as a badge of honor. That's one of his great accomplishments. Another one of his great accomplishments, dear to my heart, is that he was one of the people very involved in getting Holocaust victims their money back from Swiss banks who had millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Very important cause.
Right, millions of dollars that they didn't get back.
Senator D'Amato was in Congress until 1999. What has he done since then?
Since that time, he started a company called Park Strategies, and that company is actually on Park Avenue, and it's a bunch of powerful individuals who have all gotten together, and they've started a lobbying company.
Great. And so you had the interview with D'Amato. It was the exclusive interview. What was your first reaction when you left the interview? What was running through your mind?
Well, I was very excited. The reason I was excited is because I believe that we have secured a powerful voice for poker. Horse racing has a powerful voice. The lotteries have a powerful voice. They're all able to do what they want to do, but it's getting more and more difficult for poker players to play poker online.
What does Senator D'Amato think of our chances of protecting online poker?
Senator D'Amato is a confident man, and he believes that some action will and can be taken in the future. And he likens the online issues with prohibition. Prohibition, people weren't allowed to drink, then it went underground, and eventually something had to happen. Now, his opinion is with all the people that play poker online, people are not going to stop playing poker online, and something has to be done to protect poker. Senator D'Amato is interested in getting a poker carve-out from the Unlawful Internet Gaming Enforcement Act, and he's also interested in seeing that poker is at some point regulated.
Great. Anything else you would like to tell us about your interview with Senator D'Amato or the P.P.A. in general?
I learned a lot from Senator D'Amato. One of the things that he explained to me is that as poker players, we need to properly frame the issue. If we go to Congress and we say we're concerned about poker, really Democrats and Republicans, nobody really cares that much about poker. I mean, we have terrorism, we have very serious issues that our Congress has to involve themselves with. So he doesn't frame the issue as poker players want to play poker online. He frames the issue as, look, this is a matter of personal freedoms. Our personal freedoms are being taken away. I asked him, how did you feel about Frist sneaking the Unlawful Internet Gaming Enforcement Act into the Port Authority Act at the 11th hour? And he said that was shameful. He said Senator Frist should be ashamed of himself because what he did is he denied people our constitutional right and our process to debate, to engage in debate and to come up with something reasonable. Instead, the act was snuck through without people having an ability to discuss it. Senator D'Amato is passionate about this issue. First of all, he plays poker, he loves the game of poker, and he is also concerned about the freedoms for poker players. When I started the interview with Senator D'Amato, one of the things he said to me was, what about the poor veteran who comes back from the war? They came back, God forbid, they don't have legs, they're not ambulatory. He said to me, are only ambulatory people allowed to play poker? Why is it that an ambulatory person is allowed to go play poker in a casino, yet it's so morally reprehensible to play poker online? He recognizes that this discrepancy is unfair, and he wants to do something about it. He told me over and over again, it's not just about poker, it's about protecting personal freedoms. So I want to invite all our listeners to pick up the next Card Player magazine, and here I'm going to give you a sneak preview of one of the pages.
Thank you for watching Card Player TV's Legal Update with Allyn Jaffrey Shulman. I'm Lizzie Harrison for Card Player TV.